It appears that Victoria, then Australia, have set off a bit of a terrible chain reaction. New Zealand now has just followed our example. And that, my friends, is not a good thing. Hello, welcome to the channel. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. I'll be at the Electric Car Show this Saturday in Melbourne at 1 p.m. I'll be giving a keynote speech in the theatre there at 1 p.m. But I'll also be available at 2:30 p.m. as well if you'd like to catch up at the show too. Now, New Zealand, what are they doing that's so bad, so terrible? Well, they've followed Victoria and likely Australia, from what we've heard the government say recently, to taxing electric cars. They're taxing them because, part of the way that Australia and New Zealand and many countries around the world make money is by taxing gasoline. If they can't tax gasoline, then they can't tax you more. I mean, they can't tax your electricity, or can they? I mean, I guess they can. However, that hasn't quite happened just yet. But the point here is that if they can't tax you for the fuel use you're using, then they need to find a different way to tax you. And this is it. Electric vehicle owners in New Zealand will soon have to pay a road user tax based on the distance that they travel, which is actually a major hassle we found in Victoria. And the reason it's a hassle in Victoria is because half of the users who actually did this, EV owners who did this, by the way, is what I'm referring to, is they found it really difficult. They had to keep a logbook with them. Then they have to submit their logbook every few months. And if you don't do it, you get a massive fine. Now, in Victoria, EV adoption has been very slow. In fact, it's been much slower than other states like New South Wales and Queensland, other big states in Australia. I'm going to say this is the key reason. There's been a lot of negativity around taxing EVs, and then it's basically giving you this extra job to do. Personally, I hate having a logbook. I had to do this when I was working in the trade industry nearly 20 years ago now, and having a logbook was a pain in the ass. And so having to do that all the time now just means that basically driving an EV, it doesn't really necessarily mean you care about paying a small tax. Like, most people are not going to care about paying a small amount of tax, but it means you're thinking to yourself, oh, did I remember to put down my kilometers? Yes. Have I done this right? When do I need to submit it? Did I submit it on time? By the way, there was hundreds and hundreds of fines illegally assessed to Victorians for apparently not doing their logbooks correctly. And it turned out that the government got this wrong, and they just fined these electric car owners. So as you can see, EV adoption in Victoria has been very, very slow compared to other states. And I think it's probably primarily for this reason. Could this affect New Zealand in the same way? Of course. It is expected electrified cars will fall under the same road user charge that is going to apply to diesel vehicles in New Zealand. They're taxed at a rate of 0.76 cents per kilometre. From the 31st of March 2024, any electric car and plug-in hybrid vehicle weighing less than 3,500 kilos will be required to pay a new tax in New Zealand. Right now, EVs make up 14% of all new vehicles sold in the country in July of 2023. And part of that is thanks to New Zealand's adoption of a sliding scale rebate, which is a great idea. This charges high polluting vehicles such as diesel powered utes, SUVs, and four-wheel drives higher sales taxes. Those sales taxes are then passed on as rebates for buyers of plug-in hybrids and EVs. But the government believes this is causing a problem for them. The increased number of EVs has meant reduced revenue for the National Land Transport Fund, which pays for road upgrades and maintenance, although a lot of people in New Zealand say that that's not actually true. But anyhow, that's what they're saying. It's believed the road user charge will come into effect no matter which political party is voted in, as the New Zealand general election is being held next month and both parties support taxing EVs. Traditional hybrid and mild hybrid vehicles, as well as electrified vehicles that weigh more than 3,500 tonnes, so more than about 7,500 pounds, will be exempt from the road user tax until 2026. Government officials have admitted all vehicles will eventually be required to pay a distance-based charge. And the reason for that is because eventually all vehicles will be fully electric. The government has committed to increasing the petrol excise by 12 New Zealand cents over the next 3 years from its current rate of 70 New Zealand cents per litre. In other words, the government is basically increasing taxes. I'm going to guess the New Zealand government's probably similar to the government of Victoria, basically bankrupt or at least heading in that direction. They need money. It's a way for them to raise some money. These changes will contribute apparently New Zealand $5 billion, that's 4.6 billion Australian dollars, or around about $3 billion US dollars to the Transport Fund as an increase of 25%. So as you can see, it appears as though the increase of 25% in revenue outweighs the percentage of cars that are actually being sold at electric. In other words, they appear to be taxing at a higher level than they are internal combustion engine vehicles. That's according to this data from New Zealand. In Australia, the Victorian government's road user charge for electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles is currently being challenged by the federal government, despite backing from all local states and territories, some of which have announced their own distance-based tax, which will come into play in several years' time, not until about 2027, 2028, which I think by that time, EVs will have significant market share, probably be cheaper than internal combustion engine vehicles to manufacture, depending on the size of the vehicle. And therefore, I think it's not a problem to tax them in the future, in say 3, 4, 5 years' time, once we have a significant market share of a vehicle type that is good for everyone, right? Then I get it. But to do this today, short-sighted. It's what you do when you did stupid things like spend too much money on things people don't really need. Unfortunately, that's something that governments often do. Is that what the New Zealand government has been guilty of in the past few years? I don't know. Let me know if you do in the comments. Thanks for watching.